You've asked if I was ever involved in an historic event. I've lived a long life. I'm 85 now, so my life qualifies as a kind of history. But I can't say that I recall actually being on scene or in the room at an historic event. Still, three historic moments come to mind which affected me personally. The earliest such event was Pearl Harbor. It was a Sunday when I was 5 years old. I was lying on the floor watching embers glow and flames dance in the fireplace while my dad listened to a concert and read the paper in a chair next to me. The concert was interrupted, and I still remember the look on my dad's face at what he heard. John Daly's voice that afternoon has also stayed with me ever since, though as is characteristic of a 5-year-old, the memory is no more than a vignette, a still picture in my mind. It was the day of infamy. We were at war with Japan. My next sharp memory was when I was 8 years old. General Eisenhower was to have a parade in New York right up the street outside my dad's office. Although it was a school day, I rode into the city on the train with my dad. I felt very grown up. A woman who worked in the office was charged to get me to the parade. Dad's idea was that I would go to the roof of his office at 45 East 17th Street, from where we would have a vantage point to watch the parade. That's not how it turned out. Instead, we went to ground level along the parade route. The excitement of the crowd is what I remember, but I couldn't see anything through the throng of grown-ups. Suddenly, an excited man bent down and swooped me up onto his shoulders. Just then, the open convertible with the familiar face of the general drove by. That, too, is an image I will never forget. I know now that it was June 19th, 1945, a day for jubilation. And as General Eisenhower put it that day, today is not because one individual, one American came back from war. It is rejoicing that a nasty job is done. A nation united was able to shout its joy and to steel itself for the nasty job still ahead. As the parade neared, Dad went to the roof expecting I'd be there. Hence, my other memory is how Dad reacted, thinking I had missed the whole thing. Although it was disturbing at the time, I still draw comfort today from his caring so long ago. Humans are more given to compassion and mutuality than they are to conflict and war. As the destruction of warfare gave way to joy and peace, the hard work to rebuild the lives and nations that war had destroyed began. We are the beneficiaries of that reconstruction. May 9th, 1970 was another day that stands out in my memory. I was 33 years old. The unity of World War II was long gone. The country was in chaos over our involvement in Vietnam. Then, explosively, at the beginning of May, the war, which we thought was winding down, was extended into Cambodia. Soon after, National Guard troops fired on students at Kent State. That was a shock. We feared the war might escalate into World War III. Coming home from work one night that week, I emerged from the subway at 110th and Broadway to find someone selling tickets for a round-trip bus ride to Washington, D.C. the following Saturday for a rally. The tickets were obviously subsidized since they cost only $5 round trip. So I bought 4 for my wife and me and our 2 children, 8 and 10. I thought it might be a good learning experience for the children. Come Saturday, we were up before dawn for the long ride to Washington. Sure enough, there were the buses lined up on 110th Street, just east of Broadway. Oddly, the buses had driven down through the night from Montreal to take us on south. The trip began routinely enough, but about halfway we got our first idea of where the subsidies had come from. As we passed Philadelphia, someone took the bus microphone to begin to tell us about how Trotsky was the true communist. This was not what folks had signed up for, so there was much grumbling. The Trotsky connection was then, and still is, beyond my knowledge or understanding. Someone murmured that the bus had been financed by Chinese communists. I never did get the full story. I began to feel uncomfortable and questioned whether it had been a good idea to have grabbed that bargain, though we were in good company, surrounded by our neighbors. The whole thing reached a crescendo when the guy with the mic said that they weren't going to the events on the ellipse by the White House. Instead, they were going to demonstrate on the steps of the State Department, and they had brought sheep's blood with them to cover everyone. That wasn't part of our plan, and we weren't going to do that. The bus parked at the tidal basin. The cherry blossoms were beautiful. We went to the mall, where speeches of one sort or another droned on. Despite the potential for drama, the day was rather dull until later in the afternoon, when protesters began to take off their clothes and walk around nude in the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. I'm sure that was educational for our kids. A rumor circulated that early in the morning, a sleepless President Nixon had walked to the Lincoln Memorial from the White House to talk with demonstrators encamped there. That gave hope, and the mood of the crowd turned positive. The festive spirit changed dramatically, though, as the hour approached for us to return to our bus. Suddenly, the streets were filled with army trucks converging on the crowd. We feared that things might turn violent. We thought of Kent State just 1 week earlier. We had our children with us, so we started leaving the area. Standing at a crosswalk, waiting for the light to change, army truck after army truck passed in front of us. We saw troops with weapons in the backs of those trucks, but they weren't brandishing them. Instead, the troops were giving the demonstrators the peace sign. The army was comprised of citizen draftees. They were with us. We were safe.